Thank you all for coming and attending this important, enduring industry event. And I really want to thank those of you who are attending your first CHC Summit. I'm confident that we will have a productive 3 days interacting with, learning from, and collaborating with around 500 industry players participating from more than 20 countries and scores of organizations. If you are here with us, you have already bought into the concept of collaboration across geographic, organization, and even competitive lines as a vital element in the mission we all share with the almost 8,000 combined delegates who have participated in previous CHC Safety Summits. That mission is to continue to raise our collective safety profile. It is particularly encouraging to be able to note that the collaboration message is one that is being increasingly embraced by many others across our industry. And I will cover the work being done in a number of areas later in my remarks. This is my fourth CHC and CHC's 14th year to host a Global Safety and Quality Summit, and the second consecutive year we've convened here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. As always, this collective commitment to safety is made possible by our sponsors' extraordinary and continuing support. Again, this year, dozens of companies stepped forward to help underwrite this event. With particular gratitude to HeliOne for sponsoring the welcome reception last night. And I also want to extend a heartfelt thank you to all of our platinum sponsors. Where does safety start? That's a weighty topic, but one that ought to resonate with all of us, regardless of our particular role, considering the world we live in today. Few of us would argue with the belief that our industry is evolving rapidly as new technologies, markets, and geographies emerge. After 3 years of downturn, and now facing a projected compound annual growth rate of just 1% in offshore oil and gas operations for the next 5 years, I believe we can agree that offshore operators who, by necessity, are leaner, more efficient, and significantly more streamlined, continue to wrestle with the difficult trade-offs to keep pace with considerable commercial pressures. At the same time, new markets like renewables, new technologies such as drones, and new geographies in the farthest reaches of the planet require us to evolve our thinking about strategy, solutions, and most of all, safety. We also live in a world with an unprecedented thirst for data, information, and transparency, and where social media plays an important role in how we, as aviation safety stakeholders, need to deal with emerging safety issues. I add that social media context as a backdrop which we must at least recognize, if not embrace. To ignore it would be, in my opinion, foolhardy. There are a couple of very interesting workshops this week that address those specific issues. As complicated as that world may sound, I believe the process starts with answering one basic question, which happens to be the theme of this year's summit. Building safety at every level. Does this start at the top or with frontline employees? We pose this question as a purposeful challenge to spark discussion and hopefully build consensus on where safety starts. At last year's summit, we focused on identifying and manage risk with the barriers or controls we have in place, recognizing the potential for those safeguards to be less sound than we might hope. The aim of last year's summit was to promote a revisiting of the controls we have in place and to challenge whether they can be as effective as they can be. At CHC, we did just that, and in a moment, I will touch on the progress of our Taking Care program, our Global Safety Culture program. Our theme this year is focused on managing and enhancing safety by taking advantage of and taking seriously the most important barrier we have, our frontline team members and strong safety leaders. To be clear, safety signs, slogans, and campaigns have their place, but without strong leadership and an engaged workforce, they quickly become wallpaper and background noise. Where does safety start? That's a weighty topic, but one that ought to resonate with all of us, regardless of our particular role, considering the world we live in today. Few of us would argue with the belief that our industry is evolving rapidly as new technologies, markets, and geographies emerge. After 3 years of downturn, and now facing a projected compound annual growth rate of just 1% in offshore oil and gas operations for the next 5 years, I believe we can agree that offshore operators who, by necessity, are leaner, more efficient, and significantly more streamlined, continue to wrestle with the difficult trade-offs to keep pace with considerable commercial pressures. At the same time, new markets like renewables, new technologies such as drones, and new geographies in the farthest reaches of the planet require us to evolve our thinking about strategy, solutions, and most of all, safety. We also live in a world with an unprecedented thirst for data, information, and transparency, and where social media plays an important role in how we, as aviation safety stakeholders, need to deal with emerging safety issues. I add that social media context as a backdrop which we must at least recognize, if not embrace. To ignore it would be, in my opinion, foolhardy. There are a couple of very interesting workshops this week that address those specific issues. As complicated as that world may sound, I believe the process starts with answering one basic question, which happens to be the theme of this year's summit. Building safety at every level. Does this start at the top or with frontline employees? We pose this question as a purposeful challenge to spark discussion and hopefully build consensus on where safety starts. At last year's summit, we focused on identifying and manage risk with the barriers or controls we have in place, recognizing the potential for those safeguards to be less sound than we might hope. The aim of last year's summit was to promote a revisiting of the controls we have in place and to challenge whether they can be as effective as they can be. At CHC, we did just that, and in a moment, I will touch on the progress of our Taking Care program, our global safety culture program. Our theme this year is focused on managing and enhancing safety by taking advantage of and taking seriously the most important barrier we have, our frontline team members and strong safety leaders. To be clear, safety signs, slogans, and campaigns have their place, but without strong leadership and an engaged workforce, they quickly become wallpaper and background noise. I should first share that my view, based on many years in this sector, is that there is no lack of leadership commitment to safety in the broader aviation industry, nor in the oil and gas industry, which we at CHC and many others in this room serve. As leaders, my peers and I established the purpose, strategic initiatives, and business imperatives for our companies and our industries. And few among us would not have safety as a cornerstone of these strategies and imperatives. We will always need leadership commitment to seek, evaluate, and implement frontline safety ideas. But as the time has come to move on from the mindset that safety starts at the top as the single most important element in a successful safety culture, that's a question, and I say yes. I believe we need to adjust our focus and commit energy, time, and money into developing safety leadership at all levels, not just at the top. I also believe that now is the time for a renewed leadership commitment to seeking, evaluating, and implementing safety ideas from the front line. That's not to say that there are not pockets of such safety leadership at all levels now, but I would argue that they are just pockets. The rich seam of safety leadership that we need to run through the very core of our business is not always present. When there are gaps in safety leadership, it makes effective communication challenging or indeed impossible. These gaps imperil our industry's solid safety profile and stifle efforts to further improve it. Lest you think me naive, without doubt, funding decisions made at the top are integral to an organization's safety culture. And many of us have learned funding is not endless. Sometimes the perfect safety solution may not be possible, but our safety management systems allow for that and are enshrined in as low as reasonably practical principle. Even so, in making funding decisions, we must take into consideration the potential consequences of putting that money elsewhere. Failure to adopt this mindset can be financially ruinous for company leadership and, more importantly, fatal for the front line. I'd like to consider a few examples of where funding decisions have been taken to the detriment of overall safety, where leadership was either not there or was superficial, where the results were tragic and ruinous. In England, 4 people, including a 4-year-old girl, died when a 32-ton truck crashed as it sped down a steep hill. The owner and his mechanic were convicted of manslaughter after investigators determined that faulty brakes caused the crash, resulting from the owner's decision to maximize profits by skimping on maintenance. Prescribed 6-week safety checks on the truck had not been performed in 9 months, and the driver was instructed to ignore a dash warning light. In this case, a helicopter transporting skiers up a New Zealand mountain crashed and somersaulted 700 meters down the mountain, killing a passenger. Subsequent investigation found that while it was not the root cause of the accident, the aircraft was operated without appropriate weight and balance calculations being performed. This headline pretty much says it all, leaving out the 3 years probation, $4 million fine, and $200,000 community service payment sought by the U.S. Department of Justice. Support does not always equate to hard cash. It can also mean supporting your teams in taking the time to consider the risks that they are dealing with and how best to manage those risks. In many of the examples given, it was not necessarily about the dollars spent or not spent. Rather, it's about changing the culture to allow people the space to consider the safety aspects of their jobs. Today, our world revolves much faster than those of previous generations, and in many cases, that's a good thing. The efficiencies we gain from embracing modern systems and technology allow us to achieve more and stretch boundaries. Time is money is a true statement, but sometimes time is all the investment one needs to improve the safety picture. If, like CHC, you have a complex and dynamic global operation, you do your best to instill a culture within your team to stay alert to these threats and to make the right decisions to prevent them from coming to fruition in your operation. And if you, like CHC, fly thousands of passengers and employees each year to and from their destinations, you certainly wince when you see something like this next headline. In this case, a regular inspection showed the aircraft had corroded pitot tubes, yet the operator kept the aircraft in service despite the safety issue. In this final example, investigators determined improper reuse of a part in the aircraft's rotor mechanism caused the crash of a sightseeing aircraft, killing the 2 newlywed couples and the pilot on board. While fines and jury awards are painful and public, we must never forget that lost lives are the true tragedy, and a constant reminder that safety is not just a business requirement with only legal and financial consequences. It is a moral imperative. As such, it is a further imperative that our frontline ideas, experience, input, and implementation be at the heart of our safety management systems. We achieve that through frontline engagement, training, process, compliance monitoring, technology, and collaboration. Within our offshore industry, we have seen a true example of where leadership commitment, financial support, appropriate resourcing of subject matter experts, frontline engagement, and collaboration truly make a difference in raising safety standards. That example is Heli Offshore. I'm proud that CHC has been involved from day one on this leadership initiative and continues to support at every level the ongoing work of this organization. I'm sure many of you in this room are similarly proud of your organization's contributions to their efforts. Francois Lassalle, Heli Offshore's Operations Director, joins us at the summit this year. I encourage you to attend his workshops where he will provide details of the many focused work streams we as an industry are advancing. I also encourage you to recognize that the great work being done by Heli Offshore will only truly make a difference when the principles, procedures, and outputs that it generates are fully embraced and consistently applied by our team members and not just by senior management. While Heli Offshore is a great example of industry commitment and collaboration, there are several shining examples within the oil and gas arena of leadership commitment to frontline engagement and bottom-up safety programs. I'm fortunate to be invited to take part in a number of safety-related forums. And while time prevents me from participating in all of them, I think it's appropriate to mention two examples where leadership at every level is genuine, visible, and has a lasting impact. The Shell Safety Leadership Forum was started by their upstream director, Andy Brown, as a way of gathering key suppliers together to see how the company and those suppliers could collaborate more effectively on safety topics. That leadership commitment has produced important results. In our partnership with Shell, we have used the program to identify learning opportunities. One such opportunity saw a small group of us from CHC visit Shell's St. Fergus plant just north of Aberdeen in Scotland. On the visit, we were briefed by some of the plant safety committee on a project where ownership of safety had been passed down from the committee members to the frontline employees. Their efforts in keeping injuries to zero were recognized by funding from Shell management to a cause of the employees' choosing. Mark Abbey, our regional leader in Europe, took this idea and adopted it in his operation. The results have been tremendous. The Change a Life for Safety program has not only resulted in a significant reduction in our total recordable incident rate, meaning far fewer injuries to our team, but also has contributed to a number of good causes nominated by his frontline staff. Shell is lauded throughout the oil and gas program for its Goal Zero program, which has the goal of zero harm to people in the environment. A cornerstone of Goal Zero is frontline engagement with Shell contractor and employees. Through annual and ongoing efforts like Shell's Safety Day and its Contractor Leadership Initiative. I am personally grateful for the Safety Leadership Initiative and for the opportunities it provides to share best practices and good ideas at all levels of the business. We are fortunate to have Lloyd Watson, Director of Air Transport Business Excellence for Shell, here to lead a workshop that focuses on a case study illustrating the effect frontline employees have when they are generally aligned with genuine safety leaders. I encourage you to attend. Another outstanding example of safety leadership being driven proactively and with incredible energy and commitment is the BP Supplier Safety Forum under the stewardship of BP's upstream head of global operations, Fuzzy Bitar. This forum also brings together senior leaders from a number of BP's key suppliers, not only allowing an opportunity to discuss best practices and ongoing safety programs, but also connects the suppliers with key decision makers from IOGP, the International Association of Oil and Gas Producers, which is closely aligned with Heli Offshore in addressing safety within the offshore helicopter transport industry. IOGP Safety Director Chris Hawks joins the array of experts at this year's summit to share IOGP collaborative initiatives in a number of important safety areas which, if successfully tackled, will see a significant drop in the number of fatalities within the broader oil and gas community. Like the Heli Offshore work and the work being done by Shell, BP, and other members, the IOGP activity is underpinned by commitments and financial support from the highest level. Importantly, it is also benefiting from an increased level of collaboration, which is helping to drive standardization and common priorities and practices among the IOGP membership. The collective efforts of these and similar organizations and initiatives are steadily progressing toward a goal of no offshore helicopter transport fatalities. Although I am confident in our industry leadership's top-down commitment to safety and collaboration, I'm just as certain that commitment and collaboration among our industry's leaders won't be enough by itself to get us where we want to be safety-wise. There is also an immense value in collaboration within an organization. And by definition, internal collaboration cannot be top-down. Those of you who were here last year heard me announce the launch of our Taking Care Safety program. For those of you who were not here last year, Taking Care at CHC is a promise we make to each other, regardless of job title or level, or where in the organization we work, to keep safety front and center, to consistently and rigorously execute on our procedures and training, to take care of the details, no matter how routine the task. Taking care means we hold each other accountable for safety and don't shy away from difficult conversations. It means all CHC team members are empowered and expected to speak up if they see something is unsafe and know that their voice will be heard. Taking Care represents our belief and practice that leadership from the top alone is not sufficient for a robust safety profile. Without a doubt, we derive tremendous benefit in having a global structure to develop standards, share lessons learned, and deploy best practices globally. But assuring our front line is an essential component of our network that exists to maintain common standards, and a good safety idea developed in one region can be transferred and easily implemented elsewhere. Because frontline engagement is so vital to taking our safety level and culture to the next level, over the past year, we established Taking Care and spent a lot of time focusing on it as a core element of our global safety management system. We've held stand-down events and briefings at every base, with candid discussions on how we can continue to build open and honest dialogue with our workforce and further improve safety in all facets of our operation. We are seeing ongoing commitments run from our global functional leaders to address the 15 priority work streams which we had identified as needing our focus. As each of these work streams has progressed, they have moved from being purely leadership-driven to needing the active engagement of the workforce to refine them, to turn theory into practice, and to ensure that the changes gain traction and longevity. It is the people who do the work who are best suited to define, implement, and update effective practices, principles, and protocols for safety. I'll cite a few proof points. At CHC, we rely on our engineers to help keep our global operation moving for our customers. When we identified the 15 Taking Care initiatives, we realized there would be immense value in making it easier for our engineers to build competency and increase compliance within their daily tasks. One of the most critical pieces of strengthening our safety culture is being compliant with all procedures and processes. In other words, are we actually doing everything that we say we do? This essential question must be asked throughout our business, and the resulting answers help us to identify areas for focus and ensure that we have adequate resources and equipment to keep our operations as safe, as effective as possible. Frontline monitoring for engineering compliance allows us to take a proactive approach in reducing or eliminating many maintenance and technical errors and resulting risks. We recently strengthened a type of self-audit that allows our engineers to frequently check if they are following policies and procedures. Additionally, in the past few months, we have leveraged our Safety and Quality Integrated Database, or SQUID system, to assist in recording our observations and corrective actions. We also have created initial and advanced training material to support leaders as we prepared to deploy this new program. By automating our compliance monitoring where possible, we've been able to create automated performance indicators tailored specifically for base, global, and regional reviews. We touched on our commitment to Line Operations Safety Audit, or LOSA, at last year's summit. Since then, we've had continuing commitment to the program by extending LOSA to our Australian operations. The results of our first LOSA sessions led to a significant change in the way we manage our checklists. We moved from the traditional approach to a paired back methodology that followed a more intuitive flow through the cockpit. Those changes were designed, developed, and implemented by our standards pilots, and then further refined with a high level of positive engagement and feedback from the frontline crews for whom they were designed. This final piece being vital to getting buy-in and to make the changes stick. Finally, I want to cite a real-world, bottom-up example of how CHC leadership accepted an idea, supported it, and funded it from our frontline. That created a safe, cost-effective program that benefits both CHC and our customers. As we move into new markets like renewables, our new customers have new requirements like hoist operations. These requirements include new and innovative systems, facilities, equipment, and training, potentially daunting financial challenges in this time of leaner and more efficient operations. Such was CHC's status as we prepared to expand our hoist operations. One of our maintenance team, based in the Netherlands at our Dan Helder facility, Niels van Roon, happened to be deployed to a CHC base in Australia where he saw a facility for hoist operations training that did not require an operational helicopter, vastly minimizing the safety exposure and costs traditionally associated with such training. Niels had an idea. Back at Dan Helder, Niels shared his idea with his co-workers and then began taking it up the line to leadership. Over the next year, that leadership provided the funding, guidance, and support Niels and his workmates needed to locate, secure, and outfit a hoist operations training facility. They found an unused storage room and management funded refitting of the space. They teamed with the pilot to find and fund a winch. Workmates pitched in to provide necessary labor during slow hours on shift or on their own time. Safety equipment was underwritten, ordered, and installed. At project's end, we had a new hoist training facility certified to safely and economically train offshore workers, search and rescue hoist operators, and technical crew members in on and offshore hoist operations. And we had a range of job titles, from maintenance officer to base manager, who collaborated and brought a frontline idea to real-life implementation. This quote from our gala dinner speaker, herself an accomplished mountaineer, adventurer, and leadership expert, helps illustrate the path to why safety can no longer start at the top. Based on attendance data at the summit, most of you here today are leaders or influencers in your organization. When it comes to safety, thinking and acting like a leader requires you, requires me, to seek out, trust, celebrate, and make use of the ideas and experience of our frontline people. We must accept and fully understand that without this valuable resource, we can't have a true safety culture. And without a true, effective safety culture, we put our front line at peril. And without a safe and effective front line, we have no front office. I believe the answer to the question posed in our theme is both. Safety starts at the top, where organizational purpose is established and funding decisions are made, and on the front line, where the work of the day is done and the achievements that define a true safety culture are realized. Internal collaboration, mutual respect, proper training and resources, and constant communications enable leadership commitment to benefit from the knowledge, expertise, and enterprise of the frontline workforce that keeps us all in business. Input, open-mindedness, and accountability at all levels in an organization make this possible, as we have learned with Taking Care. If you haven't adopted this safety mindset for your operation, or if you want to refine and enhance your process for seeking and adopting bottom-up safety initiatives, I encourage you to take advantage of the many workshops and experts available to you over the next 3 days. Our industry, and with the oil and gas industry as a whole, have a solid safety record. Our people in the cockpit, on the shop floor, in the hangars, in the operation centers, have the knowledge and passion to make it even stronger. Part of the leadership challenge is how to generate more of the frontline solutions that I have touched on. Ensuring that our team members have a voice and know they have a voice, and that that voice will be heard and supportive, is a real sign of leadership. I believe that not stepping up to that leadership challenge betrays our common purpose, doing all we can to get our customers and our employees where they need to be, when they need to be there, anywhere in the world, safely and reliability. Thank you, and enjoy the summit.